now, I know I've been invited to talk about my journey, how I started my journey and where I am now, and what were the challenges. So I hope I'm able to do the justice. I've tried to keep it simple, but I'm open to all kind of questions if you may have. So my journey is not just as a biorisk management expert, but also as a biomedical scientist, as a pathologist, as a medical doctor, and as a researcher and educationist, because I wear those hats at different point in time. So the tasks, and I believe every one of you who is in the professional world, आप सबके भी यही task होंगे. कभी आपको teaching करने के लिए जाना है, कभी आपको bench level पे अपना scientific job करना है. Sometimes you have to be a leader, you have to lead some point. Sometimes you even have to go back and do a lot of administrative work that we do, and that is a constant challenge. And that challenge brings to you the point where you are able, master yourself to become a multitasker. आपको multitasking करनी पड़ती है जगह जगह पे अपने आप को establish करने के लिए, because there is a general perception, there was a general, I would rather say, that women can do only a limited work. But now women have proven themselves that they are the best multitaskers. They are the best organizers. No matter which field they go in, they can multitasking. Our multitasking starts from home. So you all know, all those who are ladies who are also happily married with kids, they know every day that multitasking that they end up doing. So my story starts from here. It was 1993, and I joined in as a first year medical doctor, as a medical officer, to continue my residency training in the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. And linked to my journey is this particular piece of equipment. Does anyone know what this equipment is? किसी को कुछ idea है ये क्या है? It's not a water bath. Yeah. So my story is very passionately linked to this particular equipment. This is a Vactec 460 TB system. 1990s में ये technology बहुत actively आई थी. उस वक्त मैंने अभी AKU join किया था, and the institute had procured this equipment, and the entire section of microbiology was, there was a hype that this new equipment has come in. This equipment was primarily to culture Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and those who are familiar with microbiology, TB एक ऐसा बैक्टीरिया है जिसको ग्रो करने में बहुत टाइम लगता है. This is a slow growing bacteria. It takes up to about 3 to 4 weeks on the conventional culture system, and then additional 4 weeks for susceptibility testing if you want to see if it is sensitive or not, right? So a total of up to about say 8 to 12 weeks for someone to get the test done and to tell them that yes or not you have a TB or you don't have TB. With this new technology, there was so much excitement because this was now about to give you results within 2 weeks' time, and also so the technologies was very exciting. But the only thing was that this technology was based on what was called as the carbon 16 and carbon 14 labeled substrate. So carbon 14 labeled substrate will be utilized, the fatty acid will be utilized by the bacteria, and when it is utilized, if the bacteria is active, carbon 14 will be released, and this carbon 14 is actually a tagged carbon which has a kind of a radioactivity attached to it. And the instrument will quantitatively, look at the radioactivity that is being released in the bottle and then therefore into the environment, and tell you whether the particular bottle is positive or negative for that bacteria. So everyone is very excited. There is a inaugural going on, and we all are very happy. People are saying that this is a revolutionary change and everything is going to change about TB. The turnaround time will change. And as we are going along in excitement, this was my, as I am a first year resident, I have a very limited knowledge, at that point in time. मेडिकल कॉलेज से निकल के आए थे, नए नए डॉक्टर बने हुए थे, और now we are excited to learn new things. And since everyone was happy, so was I, thinking that this is going to be a big revolutionary change. Except for 2 young, female staff who were working in the microbiology section at that time. Both of them did not look very comfortable. They were very quiet, they did not talk much, they did not enjoy the way we were enjoying. And then I asked them what was the reason why they didn't seem that excited, because I thought they would be the ones who would be most excited. They've been working in TV for so long. And they mentioned that they were in their first trimester of pregnancy and they were really concerned about the radioactive material that is being used in this equipment. And they had so many questions whether this radioactivity is actually hazardous for them. Is it coming out in the environment? Will that affect their fetuses? What will be the outcomes? But there were no answers. Nobody was willing to talk about it. And this was me, the first year resident, very determined, very passionate to take their cause to the senior leadership, not realizing. Now you can see the backdrop कि नया इक्विपमेंट आया है, लोग बहुत खुश हो रहे हैं, इतनी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हुए हैं उसके अंदर. And I, the first year resident, stand up with the senior leadership asking them, well, is there a safety risk? This is a safety risk. How can we put it in? Is there a risk? And we had, this was really tough. We had multiple, I had to convince multiple people. And every time I went and knocked the door, and every time you can imagine what kind of a reaction would I get as a first year resident. So it was really tough. Starting from the very beginner, that is the manager of that section, and I don't know if any of you I don't see here, but I'm sure people who are connected remotely, Shahida Qureshi, one of my senior mentors, would remember Mr. Mehboob Alam, who used to be the manager at that time. It was tough talking to him, talking to Sajid Khan, talking to Dr. Khurshid as the senior chair at that point in time. But the good thing is that I was in an institute which was academically driven, and Aga Khan University is a huge academic center, which in itself helped me to learn how to survive in the academic world. Okay, so किसी ने मुझे इस तरह से ridicule नहीं किया. They did give me the tough time, but what I was told by my mentors that the way to prove yourself in the academic world is to come up with the evidence. So if you are making a case, and this is the first learning for every one of you, that if you have to make a case in an academic world, whether you are trying to prove or disprove a theory, or you're trying to prove or disprove any safety concern, the way to go forward is to bring your evidences. How your case is as good as your evidences. So my question at that point in time was, how long does this carbon-14 last in the environment, and what effects does it has on the fetus? Do we have enough evidence? And I was given 2 weeks time by the senior management to either come up with the evidences, or you say that it is safe. And that was a tough call again. So at this point in time, and this is 1993, we don't have active web browsing just like you have nowadays. There was only one limited computer which was in the central library, where you could go only by appointment, and that only for 30 minutes in a one go. So it was tough. So what I was left was with the old textbooks that I reviewed, and since there was just 2 weeks time, and you can imagine sleepless nights going to the library for extended hours and hours, looking at all the text that was available from the radioisotope studies. Is there any study that was published? And getting those journals, bringing those out, looking at the reviews was tough. I did find some of them, but I could not relate it exactly. So I took the evidences back in 2 days' time, and my senior said that this is not good enough. You have to go back and bring back carbon-14. That's what we are dealing with, and that's what you need to do. So, the material was extensive, and then I was told. This was my first study in terms of risk assessment. So I said to myself, okay, if I'm not getting what is about the radioisotope, the carbon-14, but what about the isotopes in general? Because the radioisotopes were being actively used in radiology, for that matter. So रेडियोलॉजी में यूज होते थे, दूसरे केमिस्ट्री के सेक्शंस में यूज होते थे, तो उनकी उससे मैंने फिर लर्न करना शुरू किया कि हाउ आर दे प्रोटेक्टिंग देमसेल्व्स So let's look at the risk assessment as how they are doing it. And I found out huge amount of evidences where they were being protected. I mean, there is a amount of radioisotope activity goes on, and people have to wear certain badges. That badges are actually the detectors for the radioactivity that goes on. And then based on that, you can see the amount of exposure that these people have gone through. For the radioisotope carbon-14, did I find evidence? No, I could not, because at that time this was a new technology. और आप लोगों को पता होना चाहिए, and for my junior people, students and staff over here, whenever there's a new technology, there's generally a very hype that is created. The manufacturers are very excited, the people who have bought them are very excited, so nobody wants to know the negatives of those. They all want to know the positives and how that is going to help us. So everything was good whenever I looked at the literature review that was provided by the manufacturers. So there wasn't much evidence directly linked to carbon-14, but I did find a lot of evidence on how the risk assessment can be done and how risk mitigation can be done. So I went back to the board, which was formulated at the end of the 2 weeks' time to listen to my case as to what is happening. And I told them categorically that I have no evidence about carbon-14 till now. So they said, okay, so now we are safe to go. And I said, no, but we have a huge resource that is available, which is telling us whenever we are dealing with any type of radioisotope material, we need to take some precautions. And the risks, and this was my first case for the risk assessment, where we found out that the risks and the factors which are associated with the risk is like how much the hazard is, what is the exposure, what are the vulnerabilities. Okay? So जब भी आपके पास कोई hazard है, उसको risk assessment करने के लिए ज़रूरी है कि आपको ये देखना हो कि उसके exposure को अगर हम completely हटा सकते हैं तो very good. अगर completely नहीं हटा सकते inevitably, how we can mitigate it. So the one way that turned out to be that in restricting this equipment or keeping this equipment away from the mainframe lab into a closed door room will reduce the vulnerability of the people. And that is exactly what happened. And after the end of this meeting, we decided that we are going to remove this equipment from the main bay of the laboratory and shift it into a smaller TB lab where it will be kept under the hood, where any radioisotope material or the carbon-14, which for that matter was coming out into the environment, will be actively exhausted. Secondly, the staff who will be working with this will be wearing the same badges that the radiology people wear, so that we can detect and identify if they are being exposed to any radioisotope material and what kind of reactivity this is. So although the equipment stayed, but these two measures, they brought so much satisfaction to the staff, and to myself it felt like a big a battle, winning of a big battle for me, because I thought it actually brought something different. It brought me to a level which, when I went in for the first time meeting my seniors, I was very low on my self-esteem, because I thought कि जैसे एक हमारा cultural भी है कि आप बड़ों के साथ कैसे बात कर सकते हैं, आप उनको कैसे face कर सकते हैं. So the first thing I learned in any successful movement that you want to move forward, you have to come out of that thought process. You have to come out of the factor for success is you're coming out of your own self-esteem, developing your self-esteem, not letting you feel that you मेरी कौन बात सुनेगा, मैं तो एक resident हूँ, मुझसे मेरी बातों को कौन अहमियत देगा, kind of a thing. So no, you have to come out of it, and you have to think big. You have to have belief in yourself, and that was the only thing that was driving me at that point in time. Although I did not have much evidences to myself, but that was the belief that yes, I can do it, and I really must prove myself to them. So to all of you, the first step is to coming out of that mindset कि हमारी कौन सुनेगा, मैं तो बस एक रेजिडेंट हूँ, या मैं तो एक स्टूडेंट हूँ, या मैं तो सिर्फ टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट हूँ. That's not the mindset of the leader. The leader, as a leader, you have to come out of that mindset. So this is the first learning that I learned during my journey as a biosafety expert. Now, making of a PBSA itself was a huge undertaking because biosafety, especially the laboratory biosafety, biosecurity, was very, very naive at that time. Not much information was available. This field itself was considered as primarily something which is related to the laboratory staff members, and I was told by many of my mentors who, although later did themselves also participated in PPSA, but they were very, kind of, "Ye tum kya kar rahi ho? What are you going to get out of this? You should be focusing more on your research, go write grants, don't get into this." And the only thing that kept motivating was when I used to look at my young technical staff who have just come out from their graduation programs, what knowledge do they have? Do they know what they are being exposed to? Do they know what they will be, how they need to perform to keep themselves safe? And none of them, unfortunately, even I can now admit that when I was doing my MBBS years of training at Dow Medical College, we were not exposed to those kind of risks and those kind of risk assessment. We were just taught as to how to become doctors, and that's pretty much it. So that's the only motivational factor that I had in my mind. And then I did not, went on back-footed because there is no one who is not doing it, and I was, constantly being told that, "Hey, aap kaise kaam mein lag gayi hain? You should start doing some better academic work." But to all my audience and young leaders, if you are in such a situation, the best thing is to look for the like-minded people. Look for people who are actually also thinking the way you are thinking, and trust me, you actually have to look for them with a conscious mind. They won't come to you directly, but you have to go look for them. And also, if you believe in something, you start advocating for it. So I started advocating for things like why people are not wearing gloves, why is the mask mandatory, why they are not wearing the mask. So starting advocating for whatever you believe is true was the thing that I started off, and that's where my journey started off. But my concerns were not just limited only to the local labs, that is within my own lab, whether it was our lab or the labs which I visited during my journey, but also at the national level. When I started looking at the problem, I saw that it is a larger problem. It's not just one lab or two labs, it's a huge problem. And there is a national obligation for people to, for scientists especially, those who are working at centers who are at a higher privilege, like Khan at that point in time didn't have better safety provisions available. So for them to come out and lead others so that better, opportunities can be provided. At national level, what I found was there were explosive increase of diagnostic laboratories. इतनी labs थी कि हर कोने में, हर गली में आपको lab नजर आ रही है. But there was no regulation. Is anyone watching out on those labs? उन labs के अंदर वही हमारे बच्चे जो graduate करके निकलते हैं, वही जाते हैं, वही काम करते हैं. पहले दिन से उनको खड़ा कर दिया जाता था कि ये blood निकालना है, ये serum को separate करना है, ये centrifuge चलाना है, ये autoclave चलाना है, and they had no clues. And I interviewed more than 800 students, and every student who were working in the in the laboratories, clinical laboratories, and everyone admitted that at some point in time, they did have needle stick injury, yes. Did they encounter breakage of the tubes in the centrifuge? Yes. Was there a breakdown in the autoclave and they were asked to, just wrap up their waste and throw it away? They all said yes. So all these were huge, causes of concern as to where. So this was a national obligation that was now endowing to myself and like-minded people. And I'll talk about my like-minded people. They were really amazing people. So it was diagnostic laboratories, blood banks, other medical facilities, and the waste that is coming from hospitals. How is that being, handled in the community? Those were the questions. And we all know that there are no safety regulations. There might be legislations, but implementation of legislation is barely there. More so, infectious agents were also being actively pursued in the research labs. So बहुत सारी labs जो research कर रही थी, not just diagnostic, but they were handling organisms like methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, various viruses, mycobacterium tuberculosis, highly infectious. And these are some of those organisms for which you would like to have a special kind of laboratory system like biosafety level 3 labs. But people did not have that awareness about those. So despite that, many people did ask me to, switch gears, move on to the academic world, rather than moving into this direction. I thought I need to rise above my own personal shackles, and that I should hold on to myself as to the real cause, the cause that at that point in time I thought was important, not only at the local level, but also at the national level. And I think I am a strong believer on this saying of Hazrat Ali, that if you help others, and then God will help you. And that always happens. Whenever your intentions are good, whenever you are trying to help others, and then inevitably goodness comes to you. And we were just, a bunch of 2 or 3 people who were just being ambitious, thinking, talking, advocating, not knowing much that there was a blessing in disguise, and that was post 9/11. 9/11 के बाद क्या हुआ कि national level पे campaign शुरू हो गई, international level पे campaign शुरू हो गई, which was like obligations towards safety standards, laboratory safety standards. अगर आप लोगों को पता हो कि 9/11 के बाद एक अजीब किस्म की एक scenario develop हो गया था. There were threats everywhere, and importantly there was a bio threat. I'm not sure if you guys were old enough or you were babies at that time, but I was old enough. At that time, anthrax scares came over. There were powders there were envelopes with powders, and those powders were considered to be anthrax spores. वो लग रहा था कि जी बायो वॉरफेयर शुरू होने वाली है किसी तरह से. So international community सारी excited थी. International community ने हर government के साथ, especially those which were vulnerable, they started asking them to sign up with the conventions like Cartagena protocols and others, where governments were mandated to instate there are laws, there are regulation for the control of biological materials. And that gave us a good opportunity. And we all capitalized on that opportunity. And this is my second lesson that I learned, and I will put forward to all of you as a future leaders, कि जब भी कोई opportunity आए, आप उस पर capitalize करें. ये ना सोचें कि क्योंकि उस वक्त भी बड़ा वो था कि ये वेस्ट का एजेंडा है, ये तो अमेरिकन एजेंडा है जिस पे जो आप लोग कर रहे हैं, लेकिन that's not true. If the world is moving in a direction, that is the direction you should work for yourself as well, and then prove yourself whether that is true or not true. So we capitalized on this opportunity, and we made multiple visits to the government agencies, talking to them, establishing dialogue with them, engaging them, and they recognized us as experts, as people who do know a lot about these things. And therefore we were contacted multiple times. So how PEPSA came into existence, this is how it gave us a synergy. So all those who were already sensitized, with like-minded people who were talking to each other, and now I will take their names. Dr. Anwar Naseem, who was our patron-in-chief, and he was the driving force behind it. I met him for the first time in Thailand, where there was a huge conference going on, and he saw me and he said, "I think you are Pakistani." And I said, "Yes, I am Pakistani." And he said, "बहुत मुश्किल होता है Thailand में Thais और Pakistanis को differentiate करने के लिए." And that's how we connected during this conference. And then he said that, and we exchanged dialogue, and this is another example of networking during the conferences that you go. And he gave me this very good idea as to why don't you just, grab all these students who have come up here. These were students from Karachi University. Dr. Shahana Aruj Ghazni was at that point in time leading that group. And then myself, Dr. Anwar Naseem, and Dr. Shamsul Arfin was also there. So we met them, we talked to them, and as it happens, most of the time when you go back, you forget everything about the things. But not this time. It didn't happen this time. This time we did meet again when we came back in Karachi. So myself, Dr. Anwar Naseem, Dr. Shamsul Arfin, we all met. And that was the time we decided that we should move forward and we should connect all the people who are there. And then two amazing ladies who were the backbone of this PBSA at that point in time. Madam Shahida Qureshi and Makbula Dojki. These were two amazing ladies, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute. We got together, and not just that we were talking with each other, we actually decided that we will go ahead and train ourselves, become true experts by getting certifications, by getting the endowment, that endorsement that we are actually experts. So we went out every hook and corner, every opportunity that we could get, and did all kind of courses that we went on to train ourselves and become the experts. So in response to this enormous, and then the students, of course, of Karachi University were also the backbone, who were constantly trying to get in touch with us, asking us as to how best they can be safe when they are doing different work, because taking expert advices from us. So we realized this is the time that we should put our efforts together, and it was on the 3rd of March 2008 in a very small room in my office at Arkham University Department of Pathology, section of microbiology. We sat together. Unfortunately, my hard drive crashed and I don't have the pictures, otherwise I had a good record of all those pictures that I have, and I was mentioning to Saima that if you have any of those records, so please do share those with me. So we developed a resolution that was passed, and formulation of National Biological Safety Association came into account. This was the original logo that you are seeing here. This was the original logo that we developed overnight, actually. Because when we were going for submissions, so people asked us, where is your logo? They wouldn't register us without a logo, and we said, okay, and we came back and we quickly made a logo, and then we went back for registration. So what is Pakistan Biological Safety Association? It is actually a non-for-profit, non-governmental, professional organization. So when I say professional organization, every member in this organization is a professional. They are scientists, they are technologists, they are researchers, they are doctors. So they are all professional people who are connected together, and they are dedicated towards the spreading of comprehensive knowledge of biosafety. So हमारा जो मोटिव था वो यही था कि हम पूरे पाकिस्तान में पाकिस्तान के टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट, पाकिस्तान के researchers and technicians, whosoever it is, उनको इतनी information दे regarding safety, so that when they stand on the bench doing their work, they should know what they are being exposed to and how they can protect themselves. That was the sole motive that we had in our mind. And of course, you can't have a big dream without a big team. So developing a team is the essential and the cornerstone of every big task that you want to have. And I was very lucky to have an excellent team of people that we had. And as I mentioned, Dr. Anwar Naseem was the driving force who actually asked us to do this. And then these two amazing women, Shahida Qureshi, I'm pretty sure majority of you know her through her work in the Pakistan Biological Safety Association, and Ms. Makbula Dojki. Both of them extremely hardworking and very, very vigilant in their work. And they are my mentors, and they will continue to be my mentors till this day. Dr. Shamsul Arfin was our first General Secretary. Amir Ikram became the next president, and I continued as the president for the 2 years. So this was the making of the Pakistan Biological Safety Association. On 3rd of March 2008, we got officially registered as a association. Now I'll switch gears and we move on to the challenges. As what were the challenges? Every person, I'm sure you also, we all experience different challenges because the way you perceive, the way you handle your situation, challenges could be very unique. And my challenges, I have divided them as a leader because when I was the first president of the association, so as a leader I had different challenges. Then when I became as a professional, as a person who was handling safety-related issues, becoming a chair of one of the largest institute, that is our Khan's Institutional Biosafety Committee. I had a different kind of challenges to face. And then of course, like everyone, like yourself and every other woman who is a parent and a mother, their challenges also stand large and vast. So I'll take all of them one by one. So as a leader, what was my first and foremost challenge? The first and foremost challenge was developing the trust. Unfortunately, हमारा जो cultural background है, we have very little trust on each other. हम लोग का एक दूसरे के ऊपर trust genuinely जो है वो कम ही होता है. हर एक को डाउट करते हैं, हर एक इंटेंशंस को हम डाउट करते हैं. This is something I believe in culturally हमारे अंदर है. Otherwise, many other societies they tend to trust each other more and doubt little. But when I became a leader as a president, I realized there is a lot of work to be done to bring that team together and to create that trust. So since some of us were working together in the same environment, myself, Ms. Chaida and Makbula, so it's some kind of understanding, अच्छा ये तो आखान के लोग हैं, that kind of an environment. So that attitude, it's our cultural attitude, unfortunately. कि अगर ये यहाँ के तो ये इसी इदारे के benefit के लिए कर रहे होंगे और किसी और के लिए नहीं कर रहे होंगे, which was not true. So we all of us had to work out of our hours to ensure that we are standing here for the national cause and not just for the one institution cause. And to all the leaders who are here, how do you build that trust? कैसे आप trust building करें? I mean, हम लोग को बचपन से सिखाया नहीं जाता ना. Trust building is an art. How do you do that? And the first and foremost thing is to be open, to communicate openly, to be transparent. Let people know what you can do and what you cannot do. Don't make promises which you cannot do. And that is how you will develop your trust. और बचपन से हम देखते हैं कि बच्चे को कहा कुछ जाता है और वो जब नहीं होता तो वो कुछ और ही उसका रिजल्ट होता है. So as children we tend to learn कि नहीं किसी पे ट्रस्ट नहीं करना चाहिए because कोई कुछ भी कर देगा. But that's not true. When you come into an academic world, when you come into the professional world, you can't survive without trust, or you cannot move without trust. आज अगर मेरे lab में कोई काम कर रहा है, कोई technical staff, I have left my work trusting his ability, trusting his communication, and trusting that whatever the work will be done will be in a good faith. So that is very important, my dear audience here, that you must earn this trust. You have to earn it out and you have to make sure that's the first step. And that was the biggest challenge for me, to develop that trust, to let the people know that this association is not just the Aga Khan Association, but the association that is actually working for the national cause. And then secondly, most important is your vision. Generally we are as a nation little pessimistic rather than optimistic. तो हम लोग जब भी कहते हैं नहीं ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता, अरे ऐसा क्यों सोचिए, ये कैसे होगा, हम इसको किस तरह करेंगे, ये तो बहुत बड़े ख्वाब देख रही हैं आप, कैसी बातें कर रही हैं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. I think it's the vision lies in the specs that you wear. अगर आप समझते हैं कि ये आपका विजन है और इस हद तक आपको जाना है, then nothing should stop you. And there are certain rules that you must follow, but you should not let your ambitions come down. You have to move, you have to think big to reach to that balance. अगर आप सोचेंगे नहीं तो आप उस जर्नी का पहला स्टेप ही नहीं ले सकेंगे. So जितनी भी टीम्स थी हमारी या जितने भी लोग होते थे उनके साथ बैठ के हम घंटों इसी बात पे डिस्कशंस होते थे कि हम ये कर सकते हैं कि हम नहीं कर सकते। पाकिस्तान पीबीएसए जो है वो नेशनल लेवल पे काम करेगा कि नहीं करेगा, क्या हम इसको छोटे लेवल पे रखें। एंड कम वेरी फ्यू इयर्स नाउ वी हैव इवन चैप्टर्स इन एवरी प्रोविंस, so we started thinking big, so we ended up big. So this is very important, that the attitude that you have towards your vision, that is very important, and this was a big challenge, I must say. But by thinking big, we achieved a lot. And what we achieved was the international study. Very soon we were able to register ourselves with the International Federation of Biosafety Association. And I must tell you, this was a huge achievement for us. Myself, Dr. Shahida and Maqboola, we stayed back in my office till 12:30 midnight to get this done, because our turn during this conference was towards the tail end, and the conference was happening in somewhere in Europe, and we had to wait for our turn. And all three of us were sticked to our and connections इतने अच्छे नहीं थे जैसे आजकल connections हैं। Zoom की जो अब तो Zoom is very common, but then Zoom was a big thing. We worked with our IT for 3 days to make sure that link was working, link was doing well, and then we got ourselves registered with the International Federation. And I remember calling Dr. Anwar Naseem 1:30 midnight, telling him that we got through, and he said, "अच्छा बीबी आपने इसको मुझे ये बता दी फिर कौन किया?" मैंने कहा जी सर हमने आपको ये कहते मैं तो खुद जाग रहा था आप लोगों के लिए कि आप लोग मुझे बताएंगे। So that was a big achievement. And then secondly, our work got recognized internationally. People like Poverty International actually, approached PBSA to work towards the enhancement of biosafety concerns in Pakistan. And till this day, Dr. Ziba Rasmussen is another huge name and a big achiever, a lady that you must also invite for her, achievements. She has a huge achievements. And they continue to work with PBSA. The reason being because the PBSA had maintained its integrity, had maintained its trust, and had shown that this association was working outright for the entire nation. This is also, if you visit the Poverty International Center's website, you will see the capacity building of biorisk management in Pakistan, and PBSA is mentioned, and all of you are there, most of you. Now, as a professional, once I started practicing, became as a biosafety expert, so you are, automatically sought for expert opinions. But then opinions are just opinions. You take it or you don't take it, that's fine. But once you are given the position of authority, and once I became the chair for the Institutional Biosafety Committee at our university, there were huge challenges. Challenges in terms because जितने senior professors होते हैं, they all are in their own mindsets, and they say, okay, ये तो हम इतने सालों से कर रहे हैं और ये अब आए हमें सिखाने की कैसे होगा? And I remember the first challenge was when I had to stop one of the very senior professors from his HIV work that he was been doing for many years, citing some of the risks, and I asked him to mitigate those risks, or we have to stop you from doing that work. So as a professional, we all know in biosafety के जितने भी लोग अगर यहाँ पे हैं और जिन्होंने प्रैक्टिस किया है, सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज जो होता है वो behavioral changes, asking the people to change their behaviors, asking people when you are entering, wash hands, leaving, wash hands, put your masks up, put your wear your gloves in a certain way, take them out in a certain way. ये सब चीज़ें जो है ये behavioral changes हैं, क्योंकि आपको उनके behaviors को change करना होता है. And we know now, at that time तो बहुत frustrating था, but now we know behavior change is not an easy task. You have to work over people over years to make them कि ये behavior हम क्यों आपको कह रहे हैं कि gloves पहने, उसकी सबसे पहले आपको awareness देनी पड़ती है. So whenever you are talking to them, you have to give them the reason why they want to. It is not just the awareness, the knowledge itself, but the approval from that person itself कि हाँ ये जो बात हो रही है ये मेरे ही बेहतरी के लिए है, And once they know that your intentions are not bad and it is because of the good intention, then only they get into the practice. तो ये बहुत ही जिसे कहना चाहिए सब्र का काम था, and it was a huge challenge. Every time I would go and see the biosafety practices and I would find someone not complying with these standards and I would say, अरे बेटा अभी हमने आपको कल परसों ट्रेन किया था, जी 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 जी, and you know then they will go back. So what is the psyche behind this? The psyche behind that is the acceptance. Until and unless they don't accept the thing is for their own good, only then they will start practicing. And once they will practice, they will start advocating others as well. So that is, this was a huge challenge, changing the behaviors itself. So the second thing is how you maintain your own attitude. So when you are practicing, especially when you are young and you have so many senior people who are working above and beyond you and who have been working in a certain field for a very long time, they feel that whatever the practices they are practicing, that is the correct practice and there is no other practice that they look at. You have to maintain your attitude in a very humble but yet very adamant way. आप किसी को bully भी नहीं कर सकते हैं because that's not the role that you want to do. और आप किसी को इतने humble भी ना हो जाए कि आप अपनी say ही ना आगे कर सकें. So you have to maintain that positive attitude, and people will look at your words, but they will also look at your behavior and your own practice. So you have to be practicing before preacher. So practicing yourself and then letting people know. But at the same time, maintaining your attitude of determinants, maintaining your attitude that you are adamant of the change. You really want them to change. And that was a big challenge to make that happen. But nothing is, stopping you from that. You have to take tough decisions. And as I mentioned, two of the major tough decisions that I had to take was, once was the shutting down the entire BSL-3 level lab, especially in the middle of the COVID-19 outbreak situation. And at that time, the senior leadership was, all of them were in my office at that time. What are you doing? And I said, this has to be done. And the president said, if it has to be done, then it has to be done. So I'm really lucky to be working with people who actually understand the academics, who understand the reasoning behind it. But you have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to take those hard decisions and make sure. One of the senior professors, the HIV work got stopped, and that obviously you can see what the ripple effect would have been, because they can go up to the provost level, to the president level, ranting that this work I've been doing for five decades, and all of a sudden someone has come and told me. And they were told that, see, if someone is telling you, you probably need to go back and reflect. And trust me, I asked them to stop their work for 3 weeks, and in the 4th week, all the changes that we were suggesting were done, and we asked them to go back. So that kind of hardcore decisions have to be taken. And you can't be a leader unless you make yourself strong enough to take those hard decisions. Because, and again, this is a beautiful saying, do not let your difficulties fill you with anxieties. After all, it is only in the darkest night that the stars shine more brilliantly. And that is truly the reflection of what the work has been. Now, at the personal level, of course, especially if you are a professional, and also if you are a woman, and also if you are a mother too, so that your challenges at personal level are multiplied times 100, not just 10, but I will say times 100. Obviously, when you are growing in your career, that is the time when your family is also growing. Your kids are small. You have certain cultural barriers as well. You have some cultural norms that you have to follow as a wife, as a daughter-in-law, as daughter, and as mother. So you have to fit all those, places in the life. But one thing that I learned, and most importantly to all the younger students and my fellow female colleagues here, is the key lies in prioritizing. You really have to prioritize, and your priorities will keep changing. So don't feel bad about it. Don't feel that, oh my God, I have to step back from the professional life. What will happen? It's an end to my life. No. It is actually your mindset. If you have in your mindset that I'm taking, say for example, a career break for say a year and a half, but it is your mindset that tells you that after a year and a half I will be bouncing back into my career. And in that year and a half when I am taking a break, what are the other ways that I keep on upgrading myself in my career? So don't just stay back, but do something at a smaller level, but keep your engagement with your careers. And also, trust me, when you are, in a difficult situation, that is the time when the creativity also comes in. It's the best of the ideas about various projects often came to me when I was playing with my kids. उस वक्त आपकी creativity और भी enhance हो जाती है. अच्छा, इसको इस तरह से भी किया जा सकता था, इसको ऐसे भी कर सकते थे, and you put those things in. Another important thing that I learned is to look for the role models. उस ज़माने like in early 70s and 60s perhaps, women were not in the professional world so much. So like for my example, for my mother, who is mashallah 90 now, and I was in my residency, and so she would only, every time I would visit her and meet her, the only thing she would ask, "Beta, तुम्हारा घर कैसे चलता है?" How do you are working so many hours, आपका घर कैसे चलता है? And I said, "Amma, don't worry, I have people who are taking care of everything that I want to." So having the role models, people who have actually been in the professional world, and mashallah now as we have accelerated, as we have progressed, I see mother-in-laws who have been professionals. I see them supporting their professionals, daughter-in-laws. So now the life is changing. Things are moving in a positive direction. But even if unfortunately you do not have that kind of a support at home, look for the role models in your professional world. Women who have actually gone through those ways. And I was very lucky to have role models like Dr. Rumina Hassan, Dr. Afia Zafar. These are the people who had actually successfully run balanced their life along with their professional life. Shahida and Maqbula have been a big, huge support to me, has always been not just guiding me in the professional, but also giving me tips at the back end as to how to run your home and how to run your, starting even from hiring a nanny to hiring a masi. They were always there to help and guide. So इस तरह की support ज़रूर लें. अपने आप को अकेला ना feel करें. Don't feel that now this is an end to your career. Especially young women, जब वो अपने इसमें आती कहती हैं हम दो चीज़ों को कैसे juggle करें, किस तरह से उसको करें. Take help. Ask people. People are always there to help. Many people, and हम लोग unfortunately हम support system develop नहीं कर सके अपने इसमें, लेकिन अक्सर लोगों के पास help होती है. घर में अगर कोई और नहीं तो आपकी खाला कोई होगी जिन्होंने कभी कुछ नहीं, वो कहेंगे हाँ बेटा मैं आ जाती हूँ, वो आ जाएंगे आपके पास, 2 हफ्ते वो रह लेगी, 2 हफ्ते कोई और आके रह लेगा. And kids grow with time, so it's not an end of the world. So that's the kind of the attitude you have to develop, and you have to. And having said that, yes, society में support system अब बहुत अच्छा आने लगा है. Daycares पहले नहीं थे, अब daycares भी आने लगे हैं. So always look out for good resources that are there. And then, even if you have a break, or even if you have to stop your career for some time, it is never, the end of the world. The winners are not people who never fail. You may feel at that point, oh my God, मेरा ये सब कुछ पीछे रह गया, मेरे साथ के लोग आगे निकल गए. But then, 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years gap means nothing. It is actually the person who never quit is the one who is the successor. So you succeed even if you do. I have example in my department where one of the professors, she took 10 years of career when her kids were small, and now she's a full professor. So it's just the mindset. So सब लोग के लिए यही है कि winners are not those who feel कि हम failed, but who never fail, but they are winners are those people who will encounter failures. But it is for you to, stand up and face the challenges once again. So whatever the little plant that we, saw at that point in time, it grew. And today, this is from the 3rd of March 2023. We started from 3rd of March 2008, and now in 3rd of March 2023, the website shows that there have been more than 1,400 participants who have been trained, and you can see that PBSA membership grows to 920, and I can assure you majority of these members are women. So we are very proud of our women. Yeah, big hand for the women. And we have amazing women like Dr. Uzma, our Dr. Ziva Rasmussen. You can see they are here, and they've been a big support to PBSA. An enormous amount of training continues to go on. These are the people who came and joined. जिसे कहते हैं ना क्षमा से क्षमा जलती चली गई, तो ये वही होता रहा. And now these young people, you can see Dr. Saima is leading now all of these youngsters who are training themselves. Furqan is another master trainer who is there. If you have any questions, he is the man to go to. Lot of training, hands-on training. और ये मैं आपको गारंटी करती हूँ कि ये बिल्कुल international standard trainings हैं. We have been to international centers and we got trained over there. And all these trainings that these youngsters are now given, they are at par with those trainings that we took during our initial years. Again, various trainings. And that, not just that we are talking about PBSA, even international community is talking about PBSA. So this is a recent paper that was published in Health Security Journals, where they have talked very highly about PBSA, and congratulations to all the young members of the PBSA who are doing this. So I'll end my talk over here. This is, as I mentioned, today is our, not today, but this month represents our, it's almost 15 years, yes, 15 years of our celebration of PBSA. So thank you all of you for your attention and making me part of your journey as well. Thank you. So if you have any questions.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Iram. I am Dr. Sailesh Fatma and working as assistant professor at the Host Institute, UG. So, nowadays, the awareness culture has increased a lot. Like everyone is getting awareness about the biosecurity, biosafety, and all other things. Even we are teaching our students as well. Back in the time, correct me if I'm wrong, that if I say you that you were the pioneer of this awareness culture. So back at that time, so what type of courses or the certification courses were taken at that time?
Thank you. So I'm glad you asked this question. Nowadays, we are lucky that the digital gadgets have made the life much easier. Accessibility to the website is easier. And there are many online awareness courses that are available. Even certification courses are now online, so you can very actively connect to those centers like IFMA. But back then, there weren't any sessions at that time. So we had to, as I showed you, we had to go physically to get trained over there because the field was very new to us. So I myself went to multiple, I went to CDC for that matter for training. We went to Sean Kaufman. I'm pretty sure you all know the name, and he's a big guy in biosafety. And once PBSA got this Poverty International grant, so they invited him multiple times to Pakistan. But then, back then, we were going everywhere where the shop was here.
He is also the foreign faculty, online foreign faculty member of GS.
Oh, very good, excellent. So we had to go physically. Myself, Shahida, Maghbula, we all went to different courses so that we could learn different aspects of the biosafety. I did one entire 2 weeks, course, and then those are the challenges. Your kids are small, and then you have to leave them behind, going for 2 weeks and doing a coursework. So doing those kind of courseworks, and then also there was the government supported us for one 2 week venture, and that was at Sandia Lab. This is a simulation lab which is in New Mexico, where we went to gain hands-on training, risk assessment, risk management, and also lab designing, whatever issues in the laboratory designs. So those were good opportunities that we met the experts in person, but yes, a lot of sacrifices went in because you had to leave your family, your work, and everything, and to go and spend times. And every workshop was not less than a week at least, and then going to US for a week means more than 10 days. So those were the things. IFBA came up very soon with the certification programs, but because I was also part of making those certification programs, so I myself could not take particular heads also, obviously, because I was the part of making the exams. But now those are open to everyone, so I'm glad that many people are taking the certification courses.
So that is so fascinating to hear that. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum, ma'am. My question is about, as you give the awareness about the biosecurity and biosafety, but what about the GLP? Because most of the students, like in research, they don't know about what is GLP. How can we save us, but how can we save the equipment as well, and the things we are working with, the other microorganisms or all this? Can you say some words about this?
Excellent. I think that's an excellent question as well. So trust me, majority of the workshops that we organized back then, and I'm pretty sure even now, good laboratory practices are part and parcel of our training workshops as well. Safety is like an add-on to that, because अगर आपकी practices जो general good laboratory practices हैं वही नहीं ठीक होगी तो safety की तो बात बाद में आती है. So whatever kind workshops that we try to organize, especially for the laboratory personnel, we make sure that we start from the good laboratory practices. तो उनको तो हम instill कराते ही हैं, और उसके बाद add on we tell them as to what the safety and security concerns are there.
Assalamualaikum, this is Kanza. My question is not related to this field because मेरी field of study नहीं है. I'm studying wildlife, and I am into multiple other things, soft skills and trainings. So my question is, what is your take on that kind of multitasking, which you mentioned? Because as such, I have no support from my own department or stuff like that, because people aren't even aware about networking skills and networking, what are the benefits, and about social work and the social responsibility that you talked about by mentioning leadership. So how do I deal with that? Because I have to gather my own like-minded people. I'm luckily in connection with them, but still, how to keep motivated, because I at times become really depressed because I have to mention my extracurriculars and also my studies. And there's always, people are always against it, or there's repulsion against my enthusiasm. So how do I manage that?
First of all, you should continue with your enthusiasm. Never feel a little about your work. The second thing is, as I understand correctly, you are trying to balance the two things, that is your academics as well as your softer skills, the networking and socializing and the things like. I think that's an excellent skill, you know. One of the things that अगर मैं जनरली देखती हूँ वेस्ट से कंपेयर करते हैं हम अपनी सोसाइटी को, वेस्ट में बहुत ज़्यादा नेटवर्किंग पे जोर दिया जाता है, बहुत ज़्यादा सोशल इंटरेक्शन पे जोर दिया जाता है. जब भी हम अगर कभी किसी कॉन्फ्रेंस में जाते हैं, सबसे बड़ा उसमें जो like even if I'm meeting someone for say 10-15 minutes, I tend to learn so much from them because they are open, they give away everything you ask them for. Not just that, they even give you their contacts, they give you their emails, they will tell you to get back to me and I can help you as much as I can. So networking and getting to knowing people, it's a very, you know, unique skill that we need. Unfortunately हमारे यहाँ बहुत ज़्यादा लोग जो हैं interact करने से घबराते हैं somehow. Even when they are in the conferences, they attend the lectures and they tend to go out straight their way out, but not getting to know other people. मेरे left पे कौन बैठा है, मेरे right पे कौन बैठा है, इनके क्या interest है, इनके क्या नहीं है. And I think if you are that kind of a person, you have a huge advantage because, and you should train and you should raise that awareness among others. And I think I have met very little people, so don't let your enthusiasm go down. Please keep it up and look for your like-minded people and continue to work with them.
Dr. Ram, there is a surprise for you that Dr. Shahida Appa is already online.
Oh, okay,
And
lovely.
this is
Assalamualaikum.
And Shahida Appa would like to say something.
Sure.
Over to you, Shahida Appa.
Assalamualaikum everyone. मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
Loud and clear.
अच्छा, आपने तो डॉक्टर इरम, पहले तो सलाम आपको कि यू आर वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट पर्सन. और मैंने जितना आप लोगों से सीखा है और यू के थ्रू सीखा है, तो मेरे पास तो एक पटारी भरी हुई है किस्सों कहानियों की जो आई वुड लव टू शेयर विद एवरीवन. और आपकी टॉक सुनते हुए तो ऐसा लगा कि मैं एक टाइम टनल से गुजर गई. बहुत ही यादें ताजा हो गई, बहुत सी बातें ताजा हो गई कि वो रातें, वो शामें, वो वक्त जो हम लोगों ने साथ गुजारा, बहुत ही प्यारा वक्त था. और कल इबादत की रात थी और यकीन जाने मैंने अल्लाह ताला से तहे दिल से शुक्र अदा किया कि वो जिंदगी जो एक एज अ सिंगल मदर मैं लाई और अपने पाकिस्तान आई अमेरिका से, और जो मैंने अपने आप को इस्टेब्लिश किया अंडर द एनवायरनमेंट ऑफ AKU, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान की वो मेरी पहली जॉब थी जो मैंने की थी. और इतने मतलब केयरिंग लोगों के साथ अल्लाह ताला ने मुझे खड़ा किया था कि आई कुड एक्सरसाइज व्हाट एवर आई वांटेड. आई कुड वर्क ऑन एनी एरिया. तो इसमें भी मुझे एक शेर याद आ गया है कि तुम हवाओं से न घबराए औकाब, ये तो चलती हैं तुझे ऊंचा उड़ाने के लिए. तो बेशक हम सब लोग एक टीम है और कभी किसी मसाइब से मतलब घबराना नहीं चाहिए. दूसरा एक मेरा बहुत फेवरेट शेर है कि मसाइब से उलझकर मुस्कुराना मेरी फितरत है, मुझे नाकामियों पे अश्क बरसाना नहीं आता. जिंदगी में अगर आप अपने मोटोज बना लें तो इट मेक्स योर लाइफ इजी टू रन थ्रू चैनल्स. और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आज मैं अल्लाह ताला का बेहद शुक्र अदा करती हूँ कि भाई अल्लाह ताला ने ऐसे अच्छे लोगों और ऐसी अच्छी टीम के साथ मुझे उस वक्त पे खड़ा किया जब मुझे हिम्मत, ताकत और कॉन्फिडेंस की जरूरत थी. वो वक्त जब मैं आई थी तो मेरी एक बच्ची 3.5 साल की थी और एक 7 साल की थी. And I lost my husband in States. That was the time when I entered Pakistan. वो वक्त था जब मैं आई तो मेरी वालिदा या मेरे भाई मेरा हाथ पकड़ के मुझे रोड क्रॉस करवाते थे, ये सोचकर कि दिस इज हाउ मच हमारा कल्चर, जैसे आपने कहा कि वाकई खवातीन जो है दे आर ओवर प्रोटेक्टेड. उनको अपने पोटेंशियल्स का इस्तेमाल और कहाँ कहाँ वो अपने आप को प्रूव कर सकती हैं. बाज दफा माशरा ही हमें बहुत सारी बंदिशों में गिरफ्तार कर देता है. And this is very true. But Alhamdulillah, with compassionate people like the group of Aga Khan, I learned so many things. I learned how to talk, I learned how to stand erect, I learned how to face my own family back there and tell them what I can do. So thank you so much, Dr. Ira. It is so lovely.
Thank you.
इंशाल्लाह कभी मौका लगा तो मैं जरूर अपनी कहानी भी आप लोगों के सामने पेश करूंगी. So lovely to share the same platform with you, Dr. Ira. So lovely.
Thank you. And you are one amazing woman, and I couldn't have done it without you and Makuda's support. So thank you so much. We have done it together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ira. Thank you.
आप disconnect करो if Shadaba would like to join. Maybe Makbula also join during the session, so we can resume the question answer. Yeah, I'm going to call her so that we can first ask her.
So you want the question answer?
Yeah, the question answer session will resume, then we have a tea break for half an hour. And during that, all the students will watch the extra video. So we'll come back after connecting with the floor. Right?
Thank you, Shadaba. We are now breaking up for the tea. Sure, inshallah. Take care.
So, we can have some more questions and then we'll go for it.
Okay. So I'm here. If there are any other questions, please feel free.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Shahzana, and I don't have a question in general, but it's more like I think I need to add something.
Sure.
You mentioned a professor who continued her career after a long career break of about 10 years.
Oh, no, not myself, but
No,
another
a professor, yeah, you mentioned her.
Yes.
So, I'm not as aware or as educated as you are, but I think I disagree with that. Like, it was her will and it was her talent and all that. But I think that it's very, very tough to continue after a career break and for a woman in a society like South Asia. So, how would you suggest that? How do women cope with that? How do they actually carry on with that career after such a long break?
Yeah, it's a good question, and trust me, every month or 2 months, I do get such questions because I have a lot of residents who are working around, and majority of them are women, and majority of them are young, starting their career, but at the same time starting their families. So the pressures are enormous. Just like any other professional world, medicine की residency जो होती है, that is really a toughest time in the career of a doctor, because those are the times when you are expected to give your 100%, बल्कि sometimes 110%. So they are called resident because they are expected to be in the hospital most of the time as a resident. So women, they do come up and they are sometimes at the verge of breaking down, saying that we cannot balance it, we cannot make the two things go together. So that is the time when prioritization comes in. And I keep telling them that you have to prioritize. Look for the support. Look around if you have a support system. See where you can tap in for the support. If you think you have a good support and if you think you can balance it, because in the end, whatever you are doing in your life, it should not come at the cost of your mental health. Because अगर आप अपने आप को balance नहीं कर पा रहे, तो somewhere, somehow you are damaging your mental health, right? And nothing should allow that to happen. So it is for the best benefit of the person yourself as a person, for your good mental health, to identify what is your priority at that point in time. ठीक है ना? आप अपनी priority उस point in time के लिए identify करें. I'm not saying that you should take this is it and this is not that.